Hey everyone, fact checking today's video. We're going to do the November month-ahead forecast today. Going to get charts together from the CFS model in the United States and the Beijing Climate Center in China to see what they are showing for the coming month. Also have a bit of a recap on October's forecast, see how that did, and have a quick sneak peek at the end for December. So quite a lot to be getting on with. Before I get on with that though, I just want to say about the ads. There's links to articles on many of the pages at GazWebbiz.com. Have a browse through the widgets. If there's any article that you're interested in, just click through. You'll be able to go off and read those articles at the same time. You'll be able to support GazWebbiz. Thanks very much for doing that. There's green keyword ads on some of the pages at GazWebbiz.com. So if you right cursor over green keyword, they'll display ads. If you click through go to the advertised website, you'll be able to support GazWebbiz.com by doing that. Also, as I say, the charts are coming from CFS and also the Beijing Climate Center. You can find a link to both of those websites on my links page. So let's just quickly talk about what happened in October. The October month-end forecast has gone quite well, I think, actually. It was for a warmer and wetter than average month. We said that the temperature anomaly probably coming out somewhere around a degree to a degree and a half above average, so another milder than average month. And rainfall was predicted to come out wetter than average, although I did say it wouldn't be a complete and total washout of the month. There should be some drier periods in between those quite wet and unsettled spells. I think that's pretty much how things occurred. This is the Central England temperature from Hadley. Actually, it was a little bit warmer than predicted. The Central England temperature came out for October at 12.5, an anomaly of 1.9 degrees above average, nearly 2 degrees above average. Very warm month, although not the warmest on record. That was in 2001 at 13.3. But a bigger anomaly than we've had for some time during this very warm year of 2014. Actually, the biggest anomaly since April. April came out with an anomaly of 2.3 degrees above average. Of course, famously, the only month to come out below average so far this year is August at 14.9, an anomaly of 0.8 degrees above average. But yeah, it was a warm month, maybe a little bit warmer than I expected. And also, it was an unsettled month. I think rainfall generally above average for many parts, going to particularly the north and west, average to above average rainfall, really. And there was plenty of drier spells in between all of that rain as well. So overall, I think not a bad forecast at all this month from GazWebbiz. I'm quite pleased with how it's progressed. Notice that November for the first 2 days is at 13.0, an anomaly of 4 degrees above average. It was an exceptionally warm start to November. I think that will be coming down over the next few days because it has turned a good deal cooler now, and temperatures are back towards the early November average. Right then, let's have a look at what the CFS V2 model is seeing in terms of the 700 millibar height anomaly for the month. This is it, and we've got a very deep trough of low pressure there in the Atlantic around Iceland. We've got all of this ridging across central and southern parts of Europe, and also out in the central part of the Atlantic as well. So you can clearly see what's going on there. The jet stream is coming right through the country with that ridge, and then it's going off up towards Scandinavia. We're on the mild side of the jet because we've got all of this ridging to the south, and it's unsettled, of course. This low pressure is providing plenty of precipitation, also probably the risk of gale force winds at times, because that's a very deep trough around Iceland. So a westerly month being predicted there by the CFS V2, mild and unsettled. You'll not be surprised to see the temperature anomaly, or maybe you will, because it's a very extreme temperature anomaly for the month. Look how warm it is across the whole of Europe, from Ireland and Portugal out in the far west to the central part of Russia. All areas being predicted to have a very mild, very warm November with temperature anomalies well above average. You have to go right down to the Middle East to find anything coming out colder than average. So a very mild, westerly dominated, unsettled November being predicted by the CFS version. I think that's probably a bit extreme. I don't think the month is going to be quite as exceptionally mild as that is predicted across the whole of Europe. I think some places should come out cooler than average, but certainly a very westerly month being predicted there. The rainfall anomaly is coming out average to wetter than average across the British Isles. Near normal in the east, but wet in the west. I think with the jet stream blasting through the country, you would expect a wetter than average month, really in all parts. Even in the east, I think the rainfall anomaly would probably be coming out above average, although probably closer to average, if you see what I mean, in the east, whereas the west could have a very extremely wet month, actually. Western Scotland, northwestern parts, being perhaps Ireland, very extremely wet anomaly could occur on this sort of a pattern for November. I think all areas probably come out wetter than average. So a warm, wet November being predicted there by the CFS. The Beijing Climate Centre is showing this for the first 10 days. These are 500 millimeter height anomalies for broken down 10-day periods. And blue, of course, extrapolating to low pressure, as we know. We've got the blue curves there right over the top of the country. So it's seen an unsettled first 10 days with above average rainfall, no doubt. And it's not as warm as the CFSI because we've got a little bit of ridging occurring to the south of Greenland, actually. And that's just sending the jet stream a little bit further south. The jet stream going something like that. So almost on the cool side of the jet there, albeit still very unsettled. And I think that's probably closer, actually, to what we're going to have in the coming sort of week to 10 days than the CFS, because we are starting off, as I said at the beginning of the video, quite cool, really well, near normal in terms of the temperatures, but cooler than we've had it. And overall, I think through the coming week, those temperatures probably aren't going to be all that exciting, to be honest. So I think this is closer, really, to what is going to occur than the very extreme pattern that the CFS is seeing, certainly for the first 10 days of November. Now, as we go into the next 10 days, it's bringing back the orange colours there across the country. So this is indicating ridging extending in off the Atlantic. It's still unsettled up to the northwest. The jet stream still running close to northern and western Scotland, so unsettled up there. But many other parts probably turning drier on that scenario, and probably above average temperatures there with that as well, although with the caveat that, of course, at this time of year, because we're into November now, the nights are very long, so it just depends on the exact nature of the ridge, really. If it's a cloudy ridge, then yeah, temperatures are going to be coming out above average. Well, they'll be average by day and above average at night. If it's a clear ridge, though, you're going to get frost and fog, and that will limit the temperatures by day as well. So at this time of year, and this will be the case through December, January, and into February as well. This time of year, there's always the caveat about ridges, that although the model is probably seeing that it's going to be a warm ridge because the upper air temperatures are warm, down on the surface, it's very dependent on the exact nature of a ridge, whether it's clear or cloudy. But with that caveat aside, this is probably a mild ridge coming in. So turning drier and milder through the middle of 10-day period of November. And then finally going through to the final 10-day period of November, the 23rd to the 30th. The ridging is still closer, it's out to the west and the southwest. What could be going on there, because we've got a deepening trough over Scandinavia, what we could be getting there is sort of cooler northwesterly flows, and probably turning increasingly unsettled through that final 10 days. Well, perhaps turning cooler and more unsettled through the final 10 days of November, with the high pressure pulling out perhaps into the Atlantic. But once you average it all out, the temperature anomaly for November is coming out warmer than average, so another milder than average month being predicted there in agreement with the CFS. Perhaps not quite as extreme as what the CFS is seeing, but a milder than average month anyway. And in terms of the rainfall, we're coming out average to a little bit wetter than average. I don't think it's quite as exceptionally wet as it could be on the CFS solution. Nevertheless, rainfall anomalies coming out a little bit above average through most parts of the country. So I think overall we've got a pretty good signal here for another milder than average month, and that really is going to make it very probable, if that comes off, that 2014 will be the warmest year on record since records began in 1659. Will be dependent on what happens in December. It's going to take a lot of cold weather in December to offset things. So a milder than average month being predicted there for November, and also a wetter than average month as well. But I'm not sure it's going to be quite as wet as the CFS is expecting. Finally, this is the 700 millibar height anomaly the CFS model is seeing for December, and it's very similar to November, actually. If you want cold weather, get behind the SETI, get behind the Sage Long, because this is a complete disaster, really. Another very deep trough in the Atlantic, lots of, in the Northern Atlantic, I should say, around Iceland, lots of ridging through the Central Atlantic, still extending into southern and central parts of Europe. The jet stream, again, in a very similar similar position to where it is through November, coming through like that. So the CFS is seeing a very Atlantic driven month again in December. Will be much milder than average on that sort of setup, and also wet and potentially quite stormy as well, and that certainly would lock 2014 in as the warmest year on record, no doubt about it. But we'll worry about December when we get to it. Let's come back to November and sort of just sum it all up. Looks like going to be a relatively unsettled month once again, perhaps not quite as unsettled as October, but rainfall anomalies probably coming out a little bit above average through most places, near normal perhaps in the east, but could be significantly wetter than average in the west and the northwest, and the temperatures probably coming out warmer than average as well. If we're going to get a cold snap, I would suspect it's probably over the next 2 or 3 days. Can't really call it cold, but it's near normal, and it could be chilly for bonfire night. And then maybe the last sort of week to 10 days of November, if the Beijing Climate Centre comes off, it could be seeing some cooler air coming down from the northwest, but overall warm and wet for November. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.